Hello, I'm football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the FUT Weekly Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to what is really the first episode after EAFC 26 has properly launched and everyone has got on the game, who obviously got early access to the game, which is probably most of you listening to this. And even if you didn't, there's been the EA trial, so maybe you got on through that. And we'll be talking you through various early tips and hints and things like that. We focus more on content as we go into our kind of content gameplay schedule. So the content episode is this one, and we may talk a bit about gameplay, but it's mainly content focused. And then later in the week, we'll have the gameplay episode. This week, that gameplay episode will be the supporter exclusive. So I'll introduce our guests. First of all, we have, as you'd expect, my co-host Josh Excels. Hello and welcome back.
Yeah, good to be here. We've got coming up to like nearly a full week under our belts of like playing the games. I don't know. It feels like a week anyway. It's only been 5 days, isn't it? 4 days. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm having fun. And I don't know if it's just early game fun. I did see, like, day one, Twitter was awash with people saying, this is awesome. And then it felt like people started playing against people around their skill level. And suddenly the game got a lot less fun for them. But maybe that's something we can get onto later.
Yeah, always way. I mean, it's definitely the honeymoon period, isn't it? But maybe it's a better honeymoon than previous honeymoons. We'll find out. Not sure how many honeymoons you guys have had, but we'll move on from that topic quickly.
A mini moon.
And we'll introduce our next guest, who is Nate The FUT Accountant. Hello and welcome back.
Howdy, it's great to be back. Only one honeymoon here. Just been married once, so that's all.
So far. No. Moving swiftly on again. Let's dive into it. So what we normally start with is pound for pound Powerhouse. And so we'll do this now. We picked our pound for pounds, what Josh and I did when we jumped on last week on the supporter episode. We maybe, I guess, had played for sort of 24 hours or so at that point, and we chatted about it. And we picked £2 for pounds for us. So we'll let Nate decide the winner between those £2 for pounds. We had 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦. I don't know whether Josh knew you were coming on, but he was obviously a Spurs player, isn't he? So, and then we also had the Squad Foundation's 𝘬𝘯𝘰. So there we go. Who are you going to be picking from those two?
Ooh, that's a tough choice because I've played against 𝘬𝘯𝘰 a lot and he is very good. But I'm going to go with the 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘀 because of a number one market perspective. He could rise in price. He's already gone up for EVOs. And then number two, the EVOs that he could fit into. And some of the, base stats that he has, I think I played against him in game as well, and he was very good. So I haven't used either of those players myself, but from what I've gone up against and maybe a little bit of the Spurs bias, I'll go 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘀.
Yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, damn, he's had me here. But no, I respect a good pick when I see one, and he's definitely a good one. Fits into a lot of evolutions as well, and will presumably continue to do so. So, Nate, I mean, that's maybe something, just a quick side tip that we could mention is, those kinds of players who are going to go out of packs and have evolution potential, presumably are players to watch from an investment perspective.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the long-term gain sort of situation, but even with EVOs this year, not giving as big a boost all the time, I still think you're going to see those out-of-packs informs just rise over time because right now we can only EVO, 82s, 81s, 83s for the first big EVO that we got, but that's going to level up as we go throughout the year, and there's going to be EVOs that those cards will fit into. So I wouldn't invest in that stuff consistently unless you have maybe like 500K plus to be, putting away 10, 20, 30K a week into your transfer list or club. But yeah, that's a definite investment potential for future EVOs.
And then, we move on to this week's pound for pound Powerhouse. And I guess I should fill in listeners who may be returning or new to the podcast, what the kind of criteria is. And the idea is that it's a player who's good value, particularly. So pound for pound. And typically they're a player normally released over the last week or so and available to listeners to go get. But obviously, I mean, we're pretty much opening up this to the entire database because everyone is new in the last week. So yeah, Nate, who are you going to pick for pound Powerhouse?
So for my pound for pound, I'm going for a link to one of the players I was lucky enough to pack in the early web app stages. I packed 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘀. She's going crazy in price. I packed her before all the hoopla and everything. But the link to her is 𝘬𝘬𝘲𝘶, aka what I used to call her last year, the budget Puteus. She's got 4-star skills, 3-star weak foot, but she's got the incisive plus. She's got inventive base, dead ball, precision header, power shot, and finesse, and then aerial. And her incisive is just insane. It's nice to have the finesse as well for those opportunities from the midfield. I'm running a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. She slots in as a playmaker plus CM, so she's getting forward a good bit. But she's just like every pass. I don't know. It's kind of like I used to run KDB as a right center mid last year, and it's almost like KDB in a sense without the Travellas of 𝘵𝘱25. But her passing is just nuts. Really good dribbling. The shooting is great too, and she gets in those positions. And she's only 7,000 coins, and she links to the 𝘬𝘠𝘬𝘦, all the Lyon players that are really getting hyped up right now in terms of market prices.
Yeah, no, that is a great shout. And actually, interesting. Have you noticed the fact she's lengthy? Because obviously now women's players can be lengthy. Well, they could before, obviously, but it was pretty rare. Have you noticed that in terms of her sort of running?
I have, and I love it. Like not just her card, but some of the other players that I've used that have had lengthy since they're, what is the cutoff for height for women? It's like 5'5" or something. I have Savava as well, the Lyon left back, and she's lengthy at 5'8", kind of the same thing. Like I can tell, I think a little bit. So I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. It's a good point actually. And 5'8" is a decent size for a left back as well, right? So, potential bonus pound for pound there. A great first nomination, and we'll move on to Josh.
Yeah, so it's difficult, isn't it? Because everything's more expensive than it probably will be in about a week's time. So it's difficult to kind of pick out the pound for pound. So I am going to go for a player that's on this front page, and it is 𝘭𝑪𝘬𝘀. She demolished me in a game. I could not believe how strong she felt on the ball, difficult to get off, and then just one of the best finishers I'd played against. It didn't really matter. Keeper movement, no keeper movement. The ball was going in the back of the net. And so I thought, well, she's got to be expensive because good pace, good shooting, finesse plus. She's 16,700 coins now. She's been even cheaper over the weekend. In fact, I think it's been a bit of a trend we've seen. A lot of the women's players have gone up in price as the weekend kind of finished and we've come into Monday. She is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Finesse, and specifically finesse plus, is pretty strong. I haven't seen too many people talking about it. But if you can get a good angle, especially with finesse plus, the keepers really, really struggle with it. And just unbelievable on the ball. The speed with which she dribbles, the speed of the turn. Obviously left stick is good this year anyway. And I packed 𝘬𝘠𝘠 kind of on Saturday, maybe Friday, and he feels unbelievable on the ball, so quick. But he's only got that low sprint speed. So I was wondering whether you then get a player like 𝘭𝑪𝘬𝘀, who's very quick and has the good dribbling. Is it still the same? It's even better, because once you've created that space, she can burst into the space you've created. Once you get somebody kind of biting the wrong way, just a brilliant. I cannot believe how cheap she is, and has finesse, which is really, really strong. Low driven, which is super, super strong as well. She does have a tendency to hit Travellas when I don't want her to hit Travellas, which is something I think we've started seeing in gameplay. But just so good.
Yeah, finesse plus, low driven, and game changer, which is the Travella shooting play style. And rapid,
2 roll plus pluses as well.
And I was going to say advanced forward plus is really nice and not super common even to have the plus on some of the more meta strikers actually. So it's really good.
Because I think a lot of people are using Marmoush or 𝘵𝘱 if they're gone for a Premier League team, and I think their only role pluses at striker is in target forward or false nine. And whilst I do think you can make false nine work, you tend to need to pair that up with another striker who is getting in behind. I like the fact that she's got advanced forward plus. She really makes those attacking runs that are good anyway, even just on the roll plus. With the plus, it's unbelievable.
On this topic, actually, it's worth noting there's an Evo from the season pass. I think it's level 7, is it? Which gives advanced forward plus to a max 83 rated striker. So do look out for that if you're running the likes of 𝘵𝘃𝗲𝗍 and would like a bit better movement, then that's maybe a good option. The only valuable player that I've packed and it was untradeable was 𝘵𝘰𝗰𝗶𝗹. So I've been using him, and I was a bit disappointed that his roles are definitely kind of noticeable in that he doesn't really move quite as effectively as some of the other strikers you can get. He doesn't actually fit into the EVOs, which give role pluses at striker either, which is a bit of a shame. But a player, I can't believe I've just mentioned a City player and I'm about to do pound for pounds for another City player, because to link him up, and he's still 5k, which honestly is like kind of stupid for an 81 rated player. But the player I'm going to go for my pound for pound is Ryan 𝘱𝗫𝗀𝘀𝗁. He's pound for pound in that you'll get great value out of him. I'm sure he'll drop in price because he's a pretty commonly packed card, but he's just such a fun player to use, and his playstyles are a trickster plus, chip shot, low driven, incisive, inventive, technical, and first touch. Which actually, as playstyles for a cam or even sort of a creative right mid, right wing go, they don't get that much better than that for 5k, and his dribbling is amazing. Like, he's so fluid on the ball. He's controlled, which is interesting, so he's not actually explosive, but he just feels really, really nippy and agile. The amount of people that just can't track him, and I know that's the case for quite a lot of players in the game because left stick dribbling is really good, but you throw in like a trickster fake shot. The new what is it, the 𝘃𝗲𝗰𝗍𝗀, that's what I was the word for rainbow. The new 𝘃𝗲𝗰𝗍 is amazing. So you just you need to play with trickster, but it doesn't need to be the trickster plus either. Actually, it can be base trickster. You just go on the right stick back, so behind the player, and then forward in front of the player, so flick back, flick forward, and they'll do this rainbow flick, which is just, I don't know, it just can't be kind of like chested by a big centre back like other rainbow flicks can, and it just can kind of open up a defense in a way that not many other skills can. So that's really good. And his incisive is really useful. The low driven, he's just like someone that's just so much fun, especially at this stage of the game. And he's 5'5". You can put him through some of the EVOs. So I was going to maybe put him through the intro to 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝘠𝑚, get his reactions up a little bit. He's a very good player. But you'll lose coins, but the coins will be worth the fun I think you have in the meantime.
It's probably worth just pointing out that he is at the bottom of his price range right now. That's the only reason he's 5k.
That's true. So I guess once that's changed, he may be.
I think he'll drop even further. I could see him going down to like 1 to 2k just because he's not very quick. And I think a lot of people are kind of leaning on pace quite heavily at the moment. I think if you can hold off until his price range gets changed, you'll absolutely be able to pick him up for even cheaper.
Yeah, and I think that's what's been really good about him. He is that option that will unlock a defense that's more static. And if you don't manage to get the through ball to your striker and score, then he's going to be a player who can kind of unlock the defense in a different way. And I think that's been really, really good, especially for someone who, on the face of it, doesn't look like they're going to be as effective with that kind of pace and shooting as they actually are. So maybe wait for him to have his price range updated, or maybe you got him untradeable because he's quite common as well. Nice. Well, that's pound for pound done. Actually, it's not quite done because we have a listener nomination, don't we? So we'll work that in. A reminder, you can nominate your pound for pound Powerhouse. Just send it in all of the ways that you can get a message into the podcast, like FUTweekly@mail.com on email, @FUTweeklyPod on X, or in the pod priority questions in the supporter Discord for gold or icon supporters. So the nomination comes in from 𝘗𝗃𝗃17. He has gone for Noah Okafor from Leeds, 650 coins, and you get a big pacey striker with 4-star, 4-star, base, first touch, and quick step that finishes absolutely everything. He also has cam, left mid, and left wing, so useful roles. He scored 43 in 25 tournament matches and routinely was the difference maker for me. A good listener nomination. Right. Let's move on. What should we speak about next? Actually, let's cover kind of one of the big talking points. I think this is something we'll do moving forward in terms of how we cover some of the discussion topics, I suppose, is have a section dedicated to it called The Big Topic. And for this week's big topic, we are going to do the market and store packs. And I know that's something that, Nate, you'll have a few thoughts on. We'll do that, though, right after this break. Hello, and in this break, a quick reminder that the pod is made possible by supporters. The pod didn't used to be weekly. Yes, FUT Weekly wasn't actually weekly for a time. And then someone suggested setting up the Patreon. And since then, the pod has been weekly. And in fact, it's been twice weekly because there is that supporter episode every single week. So if you'd like to catch that episode and keep the podcast going, it's just £3 a month to do so. And you get loads in return. And there are perks higher than that, including access to the Discord too. So if you're interested and would like to support the podcast, then head over and search Support FUT Weekly. Go to Patreon and it's very easy to sign up. If you are a supporter keeping the podcast going, then a huge thank you for doing so. And if you do consider supporting, a huge thank you too. Right, let's jump back into the pod. Hello and welcome back. After the break. Right, let's jump into the big topic this week, which is the market install packs and the slow power curve. So, Josh, you added this to the run of show for this episode. So I'm assuming you might be able to sort of frame what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth us on the podcast covering what is being spoken about in the community, and I think this is probably the most controversial thing that has happened since release. In the build up to the game, we had a lot of kind of talk, both in pitch notes and on podcasts, from EA, essentially saying that the power curve is going to be slowed this year. And I think we have seen that across the board. The upgrades to players are smaller. We're not getting as many reward packs specifically. And as part of that kind of, we're changing the power curve, there was also a commitment to reduce the power curve in the store as well, because, if you make rewards worse, but you keep the store at the same level, the game becomes even more pay to win, if you want to call it that. I think it's maybe pay to progress rather than pay to win, but I get why people say pay to win. But that's a danger if you don't also kind of make the store a little worse. So Friday rolls around. So this is a week before full release of the game. We're still in early access, and the store was loaded up with tradable 100k packs. And there was only 2 per account, to be fair, but they are bigger packs than we've ever had at this stage of the game before. And there was more promo packs than we've ever had at this stage of the game before. So I think for a lot of people who were kind of on board with the idea of a slower power curve, and especially people who had maybe felt like they'd invested quite well in players that had risen quite healthily in price going into Friday content, the release of tradable 100k packs felt like the first misstep of the year, and kind of has created quite a lot of debate over, is this EA going back on their word? Is there a difference between powerful store and one that is kind of still can fit in the game without it becoming too pay to win? So, like, from a market perspective, I'd be interested to hear from Nate kind of the effect that's had. Are we still seeing the ramifications of that, kind of 3 days after it first started, and what you think it means for the outlook of the game as a whole?
I think we are still, yes, seeing the ramifications of that store pack release, because you take a look at some of the prices of players like Marmouche, who's one of the most popular players in the game at the moment, and leading up to that Friday release, he was 85,000 coins, and now he's 50k. He has been a little bit lower than that too, but it was the first store packs of the year. It was the first packs really that gave out a lot of players too, because a lot of the packs that people have been opening before that were just the 7.5Ks in the store, and some of the marquee matchups packs gave out players too, but that was just kind of the first big supply, and it was bigger than I think we expected, with the 100k packs being a part of it, and how many 45 and 25k packs that they released as well. So yeah, I would absolutely say we're still feeling the effect of that. And the whole power curve situation, like, I think I was expecting them to drop the 45k and the 25k packs. That was kind of like, they did that last year. I don't think they're going to go a first weekend, even of early access, without releasing anything in the store like that, because they know that people are giving, or they've been given their 2,000 points. So they're like ready to spend them on something. And opening one 100k pack versus 13 7.5Ks has the allure of, oh, I could pack something good. So like it makes sense when I'm thinking from EA standpoint why they release some of those packs. But again, it does feel like since we've been hearing slow power curve this, and they even mentioned in the pitch notes that we would see the slowing of things in the store as well. This kind of feels like really? Was it slowed down? Like this doesn't feel like it goes along with the rest of the narrative, if you will. Where in other SBCs and evolutions and stuff, it definitely does feel like it's been slowed down. But yeah, it really kind of threw the market for a loop that the market is still kind of recovering from. And that's the craziest thing to watch, I think, was just how much those prices dropped right away. It was wild.
So do you think that the kind of outlook on it was to try and get people to spend their pre-order points rather than necessarily to generate income from people loading up on points to buy these new packs? Because the way I was thinking of it was essentially those points that people already have are kind of pre-spent, like they're not extra revenue. You could argue that if you can get people to spend on packs that are maybe saving them for season passes further down the line, there's a higher chance those people are then going to buy points to buy a season pass later on. So I could understand that argument. But for me, I felt like if you were going to put on points, you were already doing it, and you were going to do it on 7.5K packs, which are better for the market and kind of better for EA because you're getting like less value for your coins at that point.
Right. No, I think you're right in that too. I think it was, people that had just gotten on the game had the ability to spend their given points, the 2,000 points on that 100K pack. But absolutely, it's like, if you had already ripped your points, then you're like, man, that was fun. Oh, here's these really big packs. Like this is kind of enticing you to put on more points. So I would definitely agree with you on that as well. But yeah, it's just those store pack mind games, that it is tempting, especially after they give you the points. We all remember it used to not be points that were given out, right? It was those 15K packs for like a certain number of weeks. And that was like, yeah, cool. I get my free packs every Sunday night. But this, when you're going to the store and spending the FC points, it kind of just customizes you or accustoms you to doing that. And it's very easy, I think, to put on some more after that. So smart, but not fun, I guess.
Yeah. And it's certainly, I mean, some people might say, like, how much difference does it make? Because it's just some people opening packs and, how much are they actually progressing from that? But I guess the point is that it's making as we saw in terms of the price drops, it's making those maybe slightly higher tier players more accessible, right, to people to buy with coins, which does accelerate the power curve for everyone. Because if 𝘵𝘬𝘬𝘦 goes down and halves in price, then that just gives more people access to 𝘵𝘬𝘬𝘦, right? And that was kind of the point. I mean, I know it doesn't directly work like that, but like you could argue that that's how it works.
I know that it increased supply, but I think it's a good question to ask how much did it increase by? Because I do think the early market in the game is essentially everybody knows these cards are going to drop in price at some point, and I don't want to be the one left holding the bag. That is the early market. And so as soon as you have any kind of downward pressure, or there's even a feeling in the community that there's going to be downward pressure, more people are going to be selling than buying, and that is going to drop the price. Even if the supply necessarily hasn't changed, the supply of people selling them on the market has increased. So I do wonder actually how much of an effect those store packs had on the supply of the cards over just people kind of panicking and wanting to get rid so that they can cash out at what they felt like was near the top. In terms of the wider point of like, have EA erred already from the slower power curve? I'm not gonna lose my mind over this pack. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a bit too early. I wouldn't have released them as early as they did. I agree with Nate. I think you could have got away with rare player packs in the store, and I don't think anyone would have really mind too much. And they're exactly the same as jumbo rare player packs. It's just, they're just half price. So, but I think there would have been less of a reaction to it. Part of me, though, thinks that really the reduction in the store will come over a longer period of time. It's about those packs that guaranteed, ratings that for,
Yeah.
like loads of 88 pluses, or guarantees you an icon, or guarantees you a special card. It's those kinds of packs that I hope are slowed down more than necessarily, a 100k pack, which is very good early in the game, but they're still not insane packs. We get to a point we have done in previous cycles, where 100k packs kind of like, oh yeah, might get something, but probably not. So then they're not. I do get the reaction because after everything that was said, and I think what it really showed, if there was any doubt, is that the community isn't fully bought yet with this game and with EA, and after their experience of last year and the year before, they're ready for mistakes to happen. They're ready to turn at any moment, and so it's just a very, very fine line, I think, that we're walking. I think the reaction was slightly over the top.
Yeah,
but
you can kind of see
that's kind of Twitter for
the
you.
logic of people who want to point to this and say EA aren't following what they said they would do, because it's like, oh, so actually you're gonna make the power curve slower, but make it easier to pay to progress, or comparatively like more powerful to spend money on the game, which is exactly what most people wouldn't want. Which is ironic, because actually that's how it used to be, I would say. Back in the kind of nostalgia days of like pre-19, I think, FIFA 19, that was kind of how the game worked. Like, unless you were like really committed trader, you only really got a leg up by spending. So yeah, it is interesting that that's how
and they wouldn't release it if people weren't buying them. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Yeah,
And absolutely.
That is the thing, but I totally get it, and it's interesting to discuss. I guess we just have to see how things progress, because obviously this was like the first weekend, and maybe they see this and think, oh yeah, well, we did overtune it a bit actually, and it's such a live game. They're always going to be tweaking as they go, and maybe we'll have to put that question to someone from EA if they appear on the podcast, which they said they would. So I'll look forward to that. And then actually, in terms of maybe it makes sense to talk about the market a bit more, perhaps, Nate, because we've just been talking about it here. What are we kind of seeing going on? Because we obviously did have that dip, but it's fair to say, I guess, that was probably coming anyway. 𝗪𝘓𝘬 being 80k, that's probably going to be the one and only time he hits that price right in the cycle, unless somehow he changes club and there's a really good Evo for him, I suppose. But that's probably about it. So how do you anticipate things panning out this week after this weekend, and how rewards are affecting things and things like that?
Yeah, well, speaking of rewards, we saw squad battle rewards just a couple days ago, and that actually helped the market kind of boost back up since Friday, when we had that supply and all of the panic that came with the supply around those price drops. You kind of had just a really stagnant market. A lot of the prices either just fell a little bit more on Saturday into Sunday, or they were kind of level. And then after rewards on Sunday, a lot of stuff, especially in that like mid tier, I'd say like 10, 20,000 coin cards up to maybe 50, 60, 70K, that started to pick up pretty good. Like 𝗵𝗺𝗵𝗃, for example, was 51K to like 63K. I think for a more expensive example, 𝘵𝘃𝗀 went up like 10K a card. And I think that was just a direct impact from people getting tradable packs from rewards and gaining coins off of that via quick sells and via selling some of the lower tier cards on the market that still have good value, and getting straight coins from squad battle rewards, since those rewards give out, straight coins if you were gold 3 or above, I think. And I think that's just people upgrading in their teams, where maybe before they had a, 5,000 or 6,000 coin card that they could afford as like a beginning of the game starter item, and now they can, they've got 20, 30K, they can upgrade to that next level player. I think that's why you saw some of those cards go up. But kind of overall for like this next week, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with cornerstones, and specifically with the upgrades on the cards. Because if we're going with the slower power curve this year, I'm thinking that the promos are going to have smaller upgrades, except for those, what Jamie mentioned, like the marquee promos, right? Like your Black Friday, Winter Wild cards, Team of the Year. Those are going to be more steps up in the power curve. So if we're not going to have a step up right away, which I don't think we would, I'm really curious to see how big of a boost these promo cards have, and if people feel like it's worth them selling what they have currently to go get that new promo shiny item if those boosts aren't that great. But overall, I do think that some of the 86, 87 plus cards, like maybe an 𝗍𝘃 or, some of those like top tier players, a lot of people still can't afford those. And there's going to be a whole new wave of players that get on the game this weekend as well for the standard edition release, that I still think there's room for some of those cards to grow in value. Not all of them, but I still think some of them can go up. But I do believe it depends on the promo cards that come this weekend, because if those they're going to look sick. The card design looks crazy, but if the stats aren't boosted that much and it's like, I'll just keep going for my gold card that I was trying to obtain with coins, then I don't think the market would be hurt that much. This is the whole part of the slow power curve with the current state of the market. Is there going to be that kind of slow rise in the top tier until, the first week in league, second week in league, like there has been in some of the previous years? Or is it just going to start going downhill? We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting in terms of, the team of the week one actually having decent value, really. I mean, I know EVO is going to be a bit of a factor, or people investing as well, but actually I think that it shows that whatever Cornerstones is, plus they're going to have a chemistry benefit, right? They should be like somewhat desirable, even if they're not massively boosted, I think, because none of the team of the week particularly are. Well, actually, some of the lower rated ones obviously are. But it's actually interesting. Team of the week 2 is potentially looking pretty good. I was looking at the prediction on spoti.fi, and we could have 𝘬𝘃𝗲𝗄𝘀, who has the low driven plus, 𝘵ci 𝗰𝗀𝘀, 𝗬𝘃𝗀𝘀, 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, and Ferran Torres. So, I mean, obviously no guarantees all of those players get in, but it could be quite an interesting one. Maybe even more interesting than Cornerstones, considering the sort of name recognition on some of those players as well. But yeah, how are you feeling about the market, Josh? And what should people be thinking about, I suppose, this week in terms of, coins and managing their club and things like that?
How do I feel about the market? It's fun. I like this time of year where kind of your bog standard gold packs can have players that are worth a lot. Like in one of my season pass packs, I got 𝘬𝘃𝗲𝗏, which I already had one in the club, but it was just nice to have a 25k 79 rated player in a pack. It can't last forever. Just the supply only increases of those base gold cards, unless as you mentioned earlier, one of them changes clubs or gets removed from packs for whatever reason. I'm kind of interested. There's so many beats now of the kind of what will become the normal cycle that I don't know what's going to happen with the market. Gauntlet is going to open in about a week's time for the first time, and that's going to require 3 squads. Now, it does require the bench as well. I presume most people are going to be packing out the bench with at least 5 kind of bronze players and just having 2 substitutes, maybe, if they want.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that stamina works now. But I think that's going to be interesting. Are we going to see that mid-level card, the mid to low tier kind of meta cards, rise because suddenly now you do need to build out your second and third squads? Or are people just going to rock up with whatever they have in their club by that point? Obviously, we're going to have champs. We're going to have the full release on Friday. We've got tournaments that are being kind of leaked or, I don't know, diarized. I don't know what we should talk about. They're being scheduled and we're being told about them like 40 days in advance. So there's lots of different aspects of the market that I'm finding interesting. We got our first SBC last night that was a kind of puzzle SBC that was really good. It was a 65 rated team to get a rare gold pack. I mean, that's a pretty decent trade-off, but most people didn't have that team in their club. So should there be a price rise then on the market? And there was in some places, there wasn't in others. So yeah, I don't know, the market, I feel like you can build a really, really good team for really cheap. There are some leagues that are incredible budget options. I think a lot of the women are significantly undervalued right now. But there are so many different aspects to this. I think it's very difficult to say where the market is going to go. Even coming up to full release, coming up to the first champs. And then, as I say, Gauntlet's kind of a completely different beast that I don't know really what to expect.
I was just going to say it's like uncharted territory with all these new things, and then trying to figure that out for the market. Like, new players come on the game this weekend, so in theory that would bring some more demand for those like starter squad players, like 𝗬𝘃𝗲𝗄𝘀, the right back from Forest. Like I think he was like 5K at one point. He's back down to 3. he may drop a little bit more throughout the week, but come Saturday morning when everybody's getting on the game for the first time, that is on standard edition, like you're going to see some of those, I think, go back up. Pedro Neto would be another one as well. But then if those drop for another week or so, and then we have the gauntlet, whenever that is, you said 8 days away or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a week tonight as we're recording on the Monday. I think it comes out.
Like those would be the type of players that I think people would have graduated from, but, I need to get a second and a third team. Let me go get some more of those. And another aspect of it is, are the rewards of the gauntlet worth going and buying a whole second and third team for if you don't have one, or filling out a second and third squad with what you can't from your club to go and play it? So there's been a lot of hype around it, and I hope it's really good and exciting. I've been preparing my club kind of for that. I'm so curious to see what the rewards are.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think it's probably time to move on. We're going to be back to talk about EVOs and perhaps what we've been up to over the last couple of days on the game and a few other bits right after this break. Hello and welcome back after the break. Right, let's jump in with SBCs. Maybe I'll throw to each of you on these SBCs. Josh, let's start with you in the showdowns. We've had Pepe and is it 𝘵𝗱𝗀𝘀𝘁?
Yeah,
something like that. And yeah, I mean they're both
𝘬𝘰𝘀𝘀.
right. They're pretty 𝘬𝘰𝘀𝘀, yeah. So it's 15k for Pepe and 9k for 𝘬𝘰. Yeah, what are you making of the showdown?
Yeah, like I was a little bit worried when 𝘵ece James came out with like the top rated squad being 85. I was like, I don't know that we're there yet. But I think 𝗏𝗀𝗀 and then especially these showdowns. This is part of the slower power curve, right? Like Pepe is an 80, 81, and 82 rated squad, and 𝗵𝗚𝘱 is an 80 and 81 rated squad. I think we can all just about scrape that together right now. Like they're super, super cheap to do. They're quite fun cards with like fun upgrades. It's probably worth pointing out that showdowns are going to work slightly differently this year in that it's not a +2 for the winner. It's just a +1. I don't know. I know that it had a pop-up in game, but as many people did, I just X'd through it and didn't read it. I don't know if it's a draw, if they both still get an upgrade, and it's just a draw or win, and you get the +1.
On a draw, they both get a roll ++. And if you win, you get a roll ++2. Yeah.
Okay. So, so the fact that they can go up +1, like that 𝘵𝗱𝗀𝘀𝘀 then becomes pretty well-rounded card. He's going to get close to Club 80, and I think maybe the excitement's a little bit more around Pepe just because he's got that pace. But also, 4-star, 3-star, some really good play styles, and yeah, super cheap. I think a lot of the kind of Arsenal past and present people are very happy with this card. So yeah, like I'm a fan of both of them. I don't know that I'd be, unless you really like either player, I don't know that I'd be buying cards to complete early player SBCs. And, they're still out for 4 days. So there's still time for you to like get some packs, get some rewards, do some SBCs, and potentially have the players in your club to complete these if you feel like they are going to improve an area of your club now rather than your first team. Because obviously with Gauntlet, which I'm hanging so much hope on, it's going to be important.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I mean, roll ++ at this stage is quite nice, I think. That's it. I mean, obviously it depends what the ++ is, and as usual, they are not being explicit about the actual upgrade players will get, which I think is a general frustration with live items. But I don't know. I never thought the showdown upgrades were that powerful at any point in the cycle, even when they were +2. So the +1 doesn't appeal massively, but the roll ++ is nice. Let's move on to 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝘀𝘀, Nate. And if you want to, you could add a little 𝘵ece James bonus in there.
Yeah, so 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝘀, I think, is the perfect type of player to put in that second or third squad for the gauntlet. I have an accumulating number of 83s and 84s in my club just from random packs, like some of the objective packs, just from like the first fodder of the game I'm accumulating. And I think I'm going to put it in there just because 5-star weak foot and the play styles that he has, like I'm just going to use that as a fun option to build around a second or third team. He may not be the most meta, but like he just looks fun. And I think that's what I want to do with my second and third teams, is just try fun players out. And he could be a super sub for the main squad if it feels right. And he is decently cheap. I find him better value than 𝘵ece James. just because Reece James doesn't have pace, 81 pace, but I've heard people using Reece James on the false back role, and they've said he's very good. So I think maybe that base jockey in the defending, that play style, especially with how difficult defending is such a big help. And since he has it, I think that's maybe why people are liking him in defense. But I would rate 𝗃𝗀 over Reece James. I don't think they're both awful, especially for squad depth, but I'm leaning towards 𝗃𝗀.
I have to say, I think that a combination of jockey, quickstep, and bruiser is really nice. You know, his pace is not amazing though; it's sort of 80, but actually quickstep can help with that. And jockey is, as you said, really good. Bruiser is nice as well, because I think often you do find it harder in FC26 to kind of get those seal outs. Although actually a quick gameplay tip is I switched to advanced defending, right? So that's the one where you can use the X or
Shoulder
A button
barge.
to do the seal out, you know, deliberately, rather than relying on the tackle button. And that feels a lot better, because you know, you don't really necessarily want to seal out or go for the seal out and then get a tackle, whereas obviously if you're choosing between the two, that helps quite a bit. And it feels like you can actually seal out players in positions where you just wouldn't get a seal out with the tackle button. So I definitely recommend that. You know, it's obviously a slightly more advanced thing, I guess, for people to get used to some extent, but honestly, like, tackling is nice and consistent if you hit the ball with just tackle, but it's not as consistent in terms of actually being able to like win the ball without pressing tackle, or win the ball when you're kind of not actually that close to the player, which is kind of how it should be. But yeah, I think that's been an adjustment, and yeah, certainly I think both jockey and bruiser actually, in terms of playstyles, can kind of help with that. Obviously anticipate really big too, but yeah, a good little rundown, and a good point about the gauntlet. I was going to say, when Josh said it's just a couple of 80 and 81 rated squads, I was like, that's my gauntlet squad, mate. I think they're going in Uri, but no, it's a good point. Those SBCs are pretty reasonable, and we can maybe move on now to talking about the evolutions we've had. It's fair to say there's been a slightly different approach. Maybe we'll talk about that in a bit more depth as our sort of big topic in the future. And actually, it's probably worth mentioning, you know, if you have a big topic for us to discuss on the podcast, then do send that in via, you know, the various different ways that I mentioned previously. So yeah, Josh, they are a bit different. They're sort of very much about, you know, small improvements to players. And that's going to be something that maybe doesn't get quite as much attention, but can be useful. And it's worth saying, you know, there are some key things that I guess people might have missed about some of these, especially in the case of, I was thinking that defensive upgrade Evo, what was that called? Was it Rising Guard?
Yeah.
Which was repeatable, only gave +1 defense, but that does mean +2 defense, but it didn't give an overall upgrade, right?
Yeah, and it's been, yeah, I mean, like, to kind of go off the...
Sorry, yeah,
Evos,
multiple
are
things
different.
in one.
Yeah. It is very different. I think keeping an eye on if there's an overall upgrade with things is really important. Repeatable Evos, it's very easy to miss, I think, that an Evo is repeatable. I think if you see a very small upgrade, chances are it's probably going to be repeatable, you know, especially if there's no overall increase too. Having said that, our first intro to repeatable Evos did give a +1 overall and gave 1 pace and 1 shooting. So who knows? But yeah, like I really like Rising Guard, and I know it's small. I know 2 defending isn't kind of doing anything special. 82 defending as a max is certainly not doing anything special. There are a few very, very good players who you can get an extra defending stat or 2 on, mainly because they're very quick. But as someone who runs relatively low-rated evolution squads, no overall increase is really attractive for these, because you could start building players. You know, if we look ahead to the Silver Tournament, for example, that's coming up at the end of this kind of season, I think we're still 20-odd days away from that, 27 days away, something like that. You could get a really overpowered silver card if you are able to do this without giving the overall increases. So, you know, I just think they offer multiple ways to build your squad. They cater to those that just want meta. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure 𝗏𝗏 could go into this at least once. And, you know, you can start doing those cards that are fast and are in most people's starter teams. But also, if you are somebody who likes to do your kind of local team or the club you support or your nation or players with funny names, then you can start doing these as well, and I think it will cater to both people and give advantages in some respects to the people who go meta, but also long term will be quite advantageous to those that are starting with just cards that they like rather than ones they've kind of handpicked. So yeah, I was a big fan of Rising Guard. I think the biggest upgrade and the best evolution we've had is the first paid one, which is Cover Athlete, and that's kind of fair enough. I think that's what EVOs are going to look like this year, is those kind of bigger ticket classic EVOs are going to be paid, and the kind of small upgrades, repeatable ones are probably not going to be. So yeah, I'm kind of cautiously optimistic still. I think it's very, very early to tell. I'm not sure any of the EVOs create like a super elite card, which is what they said that they would do at this stage in the game. So yeah, like, there are some really interesting cards that fit into Cover Athlete. We've got the Squad Foundation's Kerns is one of them. 𝘬𝘃𝑗𝑗 fits into this and was already very, very good. Probably worth looking at players who aren't getting stat limited too much. And again, I think it's really interesting to then go and break down what stats were being boosted, because a boost to reactions and composure is pretty big. It also gave +4 dribbling, +4 ball control. So if they had low reactions and composure, you're actually widening the gap between those two stats. If we go back to conversations we've had in the past about if an overall increase happens, so if it's just +3 to the dribbling stat, it's like an elastic band where the gaps get bigger, even though everything maybe moves upwards, the gaps between them get bigger. So yeah, worth kind of keeping an eye on the individual stat upgrades as well. But I'm a fan so far. Like, I think they're all really interesting evolutions, and I don't think we'll have many EVOs that are like, this is the thing we have to talk about this week on the podcast, because I think they'll be few and far between, but that's going to make them more special, and is going to be even bigger for those that are kind of focusing heavier on EVOs and are running their kind of favorite team.
Yeah, and I guess, that's a good point. Talking about EVOs might be slightly different. It's not just like, is this EVO worth it? Here's a good player that, you could put into it. It's sort of like, we'll be talking about maybe what this EVO can do for your players, and, that this particular EVO might be worth a look because, for example, as you said, it improves reactions, and that's something that, is important to improve, considering that stat can get left behind if you're just upgrading the stat category. So yeah, like I think there's a different kind of approach to EVOs this cycle, which we might talk about in more depth in the future. But Nate, have you actually dipping into kind of what we've been up to? Have you done any EVOs yet?
I've only done a couple, and that's probably my biggest holdup with EVOs right now is like, who do I put in them? Because I feel like I don't have a lot of direction. I mean, Spurs players, yeah, that'd be fun. USA players, yeah, that'd be fun too. But I don't think I want to put that much effort into trying to just EVO players. And I don't even think the EVOs are good enough right now. And we haven't had enough of them to make a full EVO 11. So kind of what I'm doing at the moment is just, a player that's maybe in my main team, I'm going to EVO like 𝘵𝗵𝗂, the left back that I mentioned. I've actually just put her now for the second time in Rising Guard. So she's gone +2 defense without going up higher in rating overall, but she's in my main team. So I'm just like, that one makes sense. And then for some of the other ones, the Cover Athlete, 30,000 coin EVO, 30,000 coins for me right now. I'm just going to sit on that one and wait. I'm not saying that one's, too many coins. I just think I want to be careful with who I put into that. I love the upgrade that it gives. Like the 𝘵𝘚𝗀𝘀 card. If that 𝘵𝘚𝗀𝘀 came out as an inform, he would be more than 30,000 coins. And you could say that for a lot of different players that you would put into that one. But for me, I just haven't found the right card for that yet. And as I kind of, figure out, like I mentioned, Serie A links in my second team for the gauntlet, like I'll probably start to do some EVOs around that. But it's just more of a direction thing for me. I know some people are set like, I'm going to make my Leeds team. I'm going to make my past and present team, like, go for it, like, have at it. For me, though, it's like, direction-wise, I'm lacking, like, a clear, where do I go with this? Where do I want to go? Because I don't just want to randomly EVO cards that I'm not going to use for much longer than, a day or two as well. So trying to be smart with it, but also not stress too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, I think, because of the fact that there are lots of EVOs coming out that give small upgrades, there is again that argument that waiting is a good move in many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, the slight difference is that to complete an objective, you need to complete the intro to rewards Evo, right? So that's something
True.
that I think a few people will have kind of got in early, and even that I've like slightly held off, and I'm just like, no, I should stop procrastinating and just get on and do it, and because it's not like it's annoying it gives +1. If it didn't, I think I've done it already, right? So I'm just kind of like, I really want to give a player +1 for an Evo, which is okay and does boost reactions, right? But I don't know, I'm sort of like still torn on it. I think I should just reward 𝘱𝘃𝗃 with that Evo perhaps, because he does fit in it.
There you go.
That'll probably be the move.
I do think it's probably worth pointing out, though, that the next tournament we get is going to require you to have either a active evolution or a completed Evo in your squad. So if you haven't done one, you are going to need to do one when Cornerstone's tournament drops.
That's a good point.
There was a maximum rating, I think. Just another sidestep on that. I think there's a maximum rating for that event too. Like, let's see, Cornerstone's exhibition preview event. Just to check it real fast. Yeah, team overall max 83, 85, and higher overall players max 1. So yeah, that's the different thing about these tournaments. Like, they're giving us a heads up on them, but we're not used to like looking at that.
That's a good point.
I'm trying to remember every day to like just take a quick swing through their content, because they all of a sudden pop up at the first silver tournament before the league one. Like, if there's a silver tournament that pops up for a couple of days, like, holy silver prices, you know what I mean? So stuff
they're
like that.
relatively high, aren't they? Some of the silver prices actually. Which is interesting.
People are preparing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. Already, actually, we're seeing silver prices rise, right? I mean, well, they've been high since the start, essentially. I was looking, there are a few players that are sort of like, 6,000-7,000 coins, even some I think that are extinct, that will be really popular as soon as the tournament comes. So, yeah, worth keeping an eye out for reasonably priced silvers. Maybe the people will lose a little bit of focus on it, in the next week or so. Just in terms of other things we wanted to cover, I think one point which was interesting that I might cover before we move on to our experience in the last couple of days quickly is Bert in the Discord mentioned that if you're playing co-op, you can both get the rewards from bounties, which is pretty interesting. So if you've got a friend who has a bounty, maybe jump in and scoop that up, because they can be pretty good actually. So that's worth thinking about. And actually, I mean, I haven't had that many bounties, I think, in my time playing Rivals. So it'd be interesting to see if there are a few more added in, or they kind of increase the drop rate of them. I don't know if
I think a lot of them are to do with progressing up divisions, and so they don't feel like bounties. They just feel like kind of, I don't know, little legs up. It's because you're not really receiving anything. I think the one I've like enjoyed the most so far was getting 500 season points
that's
for
awesome.
winning with a Team of the Week player. Because I was like, if you could get that fairly regularly, you can start kind of, if you're behind on the season pass. I know the last season in `FC25, quite a few people would have liked to have been able to earn some season points through playing Rivals, because I think everyone was scrambling towards the end. But I just think there's a lot they can do with that. And I think there's some issues with it. Sometimes I feel like I don't get what I was told I was going to get for completing a bounty. But it's a new thing, so and we're still in early access. So the day one patch could still be 5 days out.
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm having with the bounties right now. Is yesterday I was playing, got on a hot streak. I didn't get the extra reward point for it. I got the stage skip, but I didn't get the point. And then I had a bounty for conceding no more than 3 goals. I got 2,000 coins. After I exited the game, it showed plus 2,000 coins to my balance, and then I clicked into the next menu, and then it went away. So I was like, I think some of the bounty rewards are a little, like, sometimes they give, sometimes they don't. I'm waiting to play my next game of Rivals because I have 3 Rivals points if I win my next match with a Team of the Week player. So I'm like, that's big. I'm at 9 points right now. That could get me +3 for normal win, +3 for that win. I could be weekly rewards like that. So
hey Nate, do you want to play co-op?
Yeah. The ping would be awful, Ben.
Yeah, I know it was. But it's been interesting. Okay, let's move on to a little bit that I wanted to get into at the end, because obviously I'm assuming we all got our pre-order icons on Friday. So I'd be interested to know how we all did. Josh, who did you get from your pre-order icon pack?
If you'd have come to me at the end, I'd have teased and said that I got Ronaldo or something. But I got Oliver Kahn, and
that's a good one. Yeah,
I am very, very happy with that, because I think it's just kind of one of those positions that you don't really want to think too much about, and getting the icon in net. He's like a really solid goalkeeper, decent rating. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that all round.
Yeah, he's got 89 reactions even on that version, right? Which is really good, and he's quite well suited to a 𝘵𝗀𝗀𝘀 style, I think. So yeah, I think I think he's actually the best of like the lower tier. Well, I mean, he's not even technically lower tier, but he's just quite common. Like quite a few people have been getting him, right? I'm certainly kind of fuming because last cycle, I of course, as people know, because I complained about it on the podcast, got Tim Howard, and that was just one of the worst. I mean, he was kind of okay, but not that great. And this cycle, I'd have been very happy getting a goalkeeper, and instead I got Steven Gerrard, who actually, like, thank you to everyone who voted. So that wasn't Lampard. Or wait, who was the other one that was potentially in there?
Was it Scholes as well?
I mean, Scholes would have been nice, obviously, but definitely not as kind of. Well, I mean, not that Gerrard is meta, but he's a usable player, and actually his pluses are quite good. So he's got CDM, Deep Line Playmaker ++ and Box to Box ++. So I'm not complaining too much, but it did feel like the lower end of the pre-order spectrum. But yeah, how did it go for you, Nate?
Yeah, I was in the goalkeeper category once again. Tim Howard for me last year, Oliver Kahn for me this year. But like Josh, I have glowing reviews, and I am so happy to not have to think about my goalkeeper for a while and just get added team chemistry for when he's in. It's awesome.
It's so much nicer than Heroes in that sense, right? Like, I mean, just having icons to start. I mean, I've always been somebody who wanted to try and get an icon in kind of early doors anyway, just for that chemistry difference. I mean, for those who don't know, the big thing about it is that obviously, because of the way chemistry works, if you have two players, let's say from the same club, then they'll get a chemistry point from that. If you have two players from the same nation, they'll get a chemistry point from that. But for league, it's 3 chemistry players with the same league to get that first chemistry point. If you have an icon in your squad, every 2 players from the same league you put in will then get a chemistry point. So it just makes a really big difference to chemistry. So I'm sure people have figured that out if they put one of those icons in their team. But it is really good, and it's also interesting in terms of having cornerstones, which also gives a little chemistry benefit on Friday. Which I think what was it? Just an extra
+2 to club, I think.
Yeah,
club. So essentially, I guess any player you put in with the same club would get 3.
No, you essentially need 3 players then from the same club, and they'll all have full chemistry at that point, regardless of nation, because they'll all have the same league.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 points from the club because you need 4 players from the same club to get the to get 2 kind of segments of chemistry. So they'll be helpful. It will be interesting to see what clubs they're from. If you get a Liverpool one, that's going to be really helpful because there are so many good Liverpool players that you can kind of pair them up with. But, if you get a Brighton one, it might be a bit more difficult,
All right. My soon-to-be EVO'd 𝘬𝘯𝘬𝘦
Danny Welbeck
for the second time is going to be, I think, coming to my team. Well, actually, I don't know. It's funny. I've been looking at EVO options recently, and the change to, because obviously I'm a fan of the lengthy player up front, and they did just reduce or increase the height that you need for a player to be lengthy this cycle.
Yeah,
and so that has excluded a few players who would otherwise have been potentially lengthy, and Rutter is one of those. And his success for me last cycle was largely down to the fact that he was lengthy and, just controlled lengthy, but controlled lengthy and extremely good. That is something to look out for. But of course, there are women's players who can now be lengthy, so worth looking out for that too. Great. All right. I think that does wrap us up for this episode of the FUT Weekly podcast, the first main feed episode of 𝘵FC26. A reminder that there is that supporter episode we did if you want to catch up on the start that Josh and I had, and then also a supporter episode coming out later this week, which is the gameplay episode. And
the lost tapes, which was the second episode we recorded with Nate and 𝘵𝗀𝗀𝘀 a few weeks back, that never got released on the Patreon. So if you are a supporter, apologies for that. But that is now out there. There is still some tips in there that are worthwhile listening to. So go give it a listen.
Well, actually, also, we should point out the episode with 𝗬𝘃𝗍, because people might be coming back to the podcast, and 𝗬𝘃𝗍 was, of course, a regular on the podcast at the start of last cycle. As people have found out in that episode, he went on to work for EA, and we recorded an episode with him talking about the upcoming game cycle. And on that topic, actually, I noticed since that episode, Jamie, who we had on before, actually posted on his social media and on Reddit that they have a few jobs in the 𝘵ci Ultimate Team live team available. And I thought, as a few people had sort of noticed that 𝗬𝘃𝗍 started working there, having not had a particular background in gaming, but obviously being a passionate Ultimate Team player and being involved in the podcast and content creation, people asking whether that was possible, and whether I guess also the question people often ask is whether they'd need to move to Vancouver and things like that. So I thought it might be worth just reading Jamie's Reddit post, because I think it's quite a nice invitation to people out there to potentially go and work on Ultimate Team, and it'd be great to see people who are listening or watching this podcast go and do that, because the more kind of passionate Ultimate Team fans that work on the game, I think we can all agree that's kind of the best thing for the game. So he says that we're looking for people who love football/𝘵ci, are data-driven, and want to help shape one of the biggest live services in gaming. The roles we're hiring are 2 game product managers, which is great for folks earlier in their career or those pivoting into game/product management from another field. And then 2 lead product managers, senior level PMs or industry veterans. One is a lead role with people management responsibilities, while the other is a high-level individual contributor. And then there's also a 12-month contract product manager, a chance to jump in and make an impact quickly, he says. So all the roles are Vancouver-based, 100% in person or hybrid is required. So being local to the studio is a must, but relocation support is available. And it says we're looking for passionate football 𝘵ci people, strong data-driven decision-making skills, experience in product management or related roles. So gaming industry is ideal but not required. And they're open to non-traditional backgrounds. If you bring a unique expertise in data, football, or product strategy, you don't need to be a video game industry veteran to be a good candidate. He says, if you're interested, then you can get the ball rolling by connecting with him on LinkedIn. He is Jamie Kane, which is spelled 𝗬𝘃𝗍𝘰𝗍𝘀𝘀, and also via the EA Careers website. So yeah, it'd be great to see people who are passionate about the game, like 𝗬𝘃𝗍𝘍 is, working on the game. And I know many of those people will be listening to this podcast. So nice to be able to potentially transition into gaming if you're not already working in it, or perhaps you are. So there we go. Right. Well, I think that does wrap us up with a final, unexpected pitch for jobs. But, sometimes that happens. We should say thank you very much to you, Nate the FUT Accountant, for joining us on this episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That's great. And actually, we should say, obviously, catch Nate's videos on Nate's YouTube, Nate the FUT Accountant, on Twitch as well, of course, around content time. He's normally streaming. So we've also had as well my glamorous that's dismissing your role on this podcast. My glamorous co-host, Josh Excels. Thank you very much for joining us, as always.
Good to be here. I want one final PSA to pick up on your point about lengthy and everything. 𝘰𝗵𝗃𝗀𝘀 is a fraud. He's the slowest 94 pace player you have ever put your hands on. So
because he's explosive, right?
He is fully explosive, because that's all you can be these days. And he gets absolutely burnt by players with like 79 pace because he just can't get his legs pumping quick enough.
Yeah, well, on that important note, actually, because pace is very important in this year's game, we end this podcast. So if you've enjoyed this episode, do subscribe via the various different podcast platforms if you haven't already, on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, drop a like, leave a comment. We read and work in those comments. And of course, if you'd like an extra podcast every single week, then you can head over to Patreon to support. Just £3 a month, and you get double the podcast content. And on the golden icon tiers, you get access to the Discord, which is a great place to be at the moment with the game moving so fast. Lots of chat in there. And all that's left to say, I guess, is thank you very much to all those supporters for keeping the podcast going, and to those icon patrons: Dave B, Darren W, Hugh J, Rob W, Brent P, Ralph, Josh R, Brian, Michael B, Adam R, 𝘵𝘀𝘍𝑒𝑒𝑘, Make B, Michael H, Andrew P, Arian B, Rob S, Michael K, Neil P, Jake S, Tom B, Alex M, Alan G, Lee A, Chris G, Mark M, Dom P, Rob P, Roger D, Dan W, Waterman, Also Ran, and Juicy. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.